when we just start? Okay.
I have a question about the children's area with the planters.
Mhm.
Is that going to be the same space size as, where it's coming from?
I think it's the actual space itself, based on the fenced-in area, will be a little bit smaller. The planters themselves, I think, are going to be the same size, but just the area surrounding it is a bit smaller. We can expand that, make it a little bit bigger, but you're kind of losing the meadow area. If you'd like it,
I want them to have the same space they had.
okay. Yeah, we can look at reconfiguring that meadow border maybe to kind of give them a bigger area in the middle there. It might have to be a different shape.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Erica and Rachel, if you have any ideas on that.
Yeah. If we expand it, I don't know the exact area. I mean, we can find out the exact area of the children's area now, which is within that post and rail fence. This does not have a fence,
Right.
because we can't sink posts there. So that's kind of, I believe that's why it's in the meadow. I mean, one of the things we could do is, because right now, let me just grab a distance on this real quick. The distance, the width of the meadow, hold on a second, around, where it's mowed around the children's area. I mean, we're talking, that's less than 10 feet. So if we expand the children's area, it'll basically get rid of that little bit of meadow.
Unless we we would have to remove some of this meadow up here if you wanted to just expand the whole space out.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
what we could do is move the meadow. Oh, we can move the children's area too, but we can move the meadow so that it's contiguous and not have a path through the middle of it, and then expand the children's area.
Okay.
Or move the children's area up, to that upper left corner of the meadow.
Up in here.
Yeah. Well, we can't see your.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I can just point at it so I can just can't you guys just slice some of that longer metal off and expand it?
Yeah, we could just slice some of that off and expand the children's area up into that. Let me see if I can actually point. Let me see.
Yeah,
I just requested it.
We'll see.
So, Nichelle, like you're saying, we could just remove some of this and just move this whole thing up, make a bigger,
I can't see what
area.
you're doing.
Oh, man.
No, we can't see your pointer.
Oh, man.
In the area directly around the children's area, the meadow area around them, how big is that? How many feet?
That's what I was saying. So where her cursor just was, right there, it's only 7.5 feet. So it's pretty narrow there. And that was to give a path through the meadow, on top of there. So, we could do is we could, make the meadow contiguous, but maybe put the children's area in the path, or in that area. So that's the mowed area. So the mowing goes across the meadow and then across by the children's area.
I think just at the top, just slice off a little bit of that meadow and expand it out. And
because you want the children's area completely enclosed by the meadow to make it a defined space.
Yeah, since we can't do post.
Yeah.
And that's the way is, defining the space. So we can't put anything down on the ground. So
okay.
Has there been further decisions about how the outline of the undiggable zone will be delineated and articulated with signage?
Yeah, so we're proposing a 4x4 post that comes out of the ground. And Elaine just prepared signage just today. So we're finalizing that, but the signage will go on each post and will say no digging between the posts or between the signs.
Great. I wonder, is there going to be like a little like map on that signage? I wonder if including like the most basic bird's eye view that shows the rectangle between the posts might make it extra clear, especially for those who might be more using visuals than reading to understand the signage.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have to give
I
that
think
one some thought. Elaine was thinking about
yeah,
potential arrows. The posts themselves are
Yeah.
only a 4x4 inch post, so they're very narrow. So the amount of, we were trying to keep the sign, you know, in line with the post so that it wasn't like this big overhanging sign. So we might have to give that some thought. Elaine, do you have any?
yeah, I think it might be possible. I think it would be really small though, but that is a good point about, especially, yeah, I'm a visual person myself, so I think like some sort of visual aid would be helpful. Whether
Could
that
be
be
like, it could be maybe like longer rather than wider.
oh yeah,
Also,
so if it,
go ahead. An idea might be that it's, so you have the words on your post,
Mhm.
but then maybe the image is on the post, but on its own separate thing.
Okay.
That shows like the location of the gardens and so forth. That could be put in after everything's put in. That way, if anything changed during the construction, it would
Mhm.
have the most up to date. So you could say, oh, okay, the border's here over by the edge of the meadow, or it's, close to this garden or close to the raised beds here. I don't know.
yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I
Erica.
could
So
see that. Yeah, I could see that working. And I also think, I mean, just from my perspective, I can see why you'd want to make it subtle, but I would also definitely prioritize. Sorry, I'm on a bumpy road right now. I would definitely prioritize like legibility and clarity. And if it's like if it's an 18-inch by 18-inch sign, even like if it gets bigger, I would much rather it get bigger and be super clear from my opinion. Like I'm just imagining 6 years from now, with very different people involved, and there's an older person who didn't bring their reading glasses, who's it's their second time to the garden, and they wanted to protect some new special native flower they planted on the edge of the meadow from groundhogs, and it just needs to be still very clear what to do and not do.
yeah, we can rework that. That's good to hear from you all that safety and or yeah, safety really in the end is more important than subtlety. So yeah, because we can rework that. Yeah, right now the sign is pretty small, and I was concerned about that too because I'm used to making larger signs that are much more in your face.
Yeah, real. Me too.
Yeah, so we could work on that of like doing, and I like what Erica said of there can be the top of the sign, but you also, if it's a post, you have the edges to work off of too. So yeah, I'll troubleshoot that some more. I think maybe the map, And then what Eric was saying too, if we could hold off on printing the map related part of the sign until construction is complete, so that it really reflects what actually went in the ground. Yeah, I'll take those notes with me. Thank you.
Yeah, I like your idea from earlier, Elaine, about actually putting arrows and saying, you know,
Yeah.
from here to here, so that they know exactly where to look. So maybe we can think about
like
that
that too.
too. Yeah.
I want to come back to the
Yeah,
children's
maybe the
area.
post could be capped in a high vis way. Sorry, Michelle, I was talking at the same time as you. I was just saying maybe the post could be capped in a high vis way. You know, you can get those like 4x4 caps from Home Depot for
Mhm,
like
mhm.
$10. They could be like
Painted
spray
or,
painted,
yeah, that's a good
reflective,
idea.
you know, neon yellow or something like that.
Yeah.
Michelle, go ahead.
Oh, I said, for the children's area, that the actual meadow part just directly around it, you guys said it's gonna be 7.5 feet, like of meadow around the area.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
right now that northern or the upper part, which is the most narrow, yeah, it's measuring at 7.7 feet.
I'm not talking about the path part. I'm talking about the actual meadow that's around the children's area that is
Correct.
going to form our border to make it a defined space. That's what I mean. Like, how big is that?
It's just under, yeah, it's about 7 feet.
Okay, do you guys understand what I'm talking about? So I wish I
Yep.
can.
I do.
Yeah, I don't mean the pathway by the kids' area,
Yeah.
the actual.
I understand.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think that's kind of big because it's just supposed to be a defined border to say what's the children areas. I think 7 feet from the inside they play to the outside of the path seems like a
Correct.
lot to me.
Yeah, that seems a little, I think it seems pretty substantial too.
So you want the meadow, like, so the meadow, I'll call it the strip, whatever you want, border, we'll call it the meadow
Mhm.
border.
Yes.
You want that to be narrower, and then the mowed area around the children's planters to be bigger.
Yes. Inside of the border will be bigger.
Yes.
That may
Okay.
help us get
We
our
can do
space
that.
too, because I think that's
Yeah.
what, 7
Yep.
feet.
Yep.
Like,
So
Yeah.
yeah, so the thicker part that you see to, well, I'll say to the left of it, yeah, because that's going to be, that's closer to, and these aren't exact, yeah, that's closer to 12 feet. So
Like if you just offset that outer line, maybe 5 feet, you'd get a bigger area on the middle.
sure. Okay. Sure.
Even 5 feet is pretty. I think 5 feet is. And then see where that gets us. And maybe we will have to add more area to get what we previously had.
yeah, so the square set in the middle will become
Mhm.
bigger when that
Yeah.
becomes thinner.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Okay.
And if that doesn't get us what we need, then
Then we'll just
save off
move
some of
it.
the meadow.
Yep.
Yeah. And also for this area, like, can we like put some kind of rocks or something around the edge of the, the meadow area that's in the kids to make the border more defined and just more aesthetically pleasing?
I don't fully understand. Do you mean like where they're walking or?
No, I mean,
On the interior
where
of the,
yes, the interior of the border inside the children's area, how we're using the meadow as a border, as a fence, basically, inside of it, if you have like some rocks, very close up to the border.
Mhm.
How some people have their pathways defined like that in their homes.
Like
and-
edging.
Yes. hmm
Yeah, we can look at that.
It'll also help people to, if any, if the wildflowers start to spread and it starts to encroach upon the children's area, they know that this is the line.
Mhm.
Anything that's coming in past these rocks need to be pulled and things to make sure their area doesn't shrink in on them or anything.
Okay.
Would you prefer like a paver border, which might be easier to like to mow up against?
Okay.
Or are you thinking like something more natural, like, larger stones?
Well, I don't know exactly what a paver border looks like.
Okay.
It would be like just pavers laid on the ground. That way they're because if you have rocks, you're going to end up with the meadow and the grass growing up all through it.
Mhm.
I still don't know what that is, a paver.
It's not like a clean line. I can just see if I can pull up a picture.
But just it's like the things, it's a concrete flat piece. That's what pathways are made out of, or sidewalks.
Mm.
Will we be when you all mentioned ground cover at the beginning of this meeting? Does that include what'll be seeded in the paths?
Yeah, I think Erica, we did specify seeding mixture for the interior.
Yes, it's a low
Okay, great.
mow.
So we'll
seed
get to that.
composition. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's on the
Okay, cool.
restoration plan. Currently on the restoration plan.
What is it? A Lomo what?
It's called a low mow seed composition.
So it should be a lot of clover, maybe some violets, maybe a little bit of low-mow grass.
Right now it's got it shouldn't grow much. It shouldn't grow much more than 6 inches or 6 to 8 inches. It's a combination of
Great.
creeping red fescue. It's a lot of fescue. Hard fescue, chewings fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, and white clover.
Great.
My other question is that are you guys going to actually be starting in March? Because I'm concerned about the date consistently being pushed back, because this season we had some gardeners that wanted to grow pumpkins and we didn't grow them because it was originally told you guys would start the beginning of September, and we knew pumpkins would not be done growing then. But our last meeting, you guys said that, we can have the whole season. The problem is it's too late to start the pumpkins.
Mhm.
So some people want to grow garlic now, and we're like, no, we can't grow them because they won't be ready until July, and you guys will be in there in March. So I just don't want us to not plant our garlic, and then you guys say, oh, we're not doing it in March, so we're coming in August now. And we're not able to grow things that we would because we constantly are planning for you guys to come in.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the permitting process now, and we have every intention to get our permits as soon as possible and get to construction by March. That's not always 100% predictable, but that is our intention.
So is
We're-
there a reason for us to believe that it won't get pushed back again?
It's not. We're working as quickly as we can to get to construction in March. We have our permit in with the city, and we'll have the NPDS permit in probably within this week. Those are the longest line items. And, you know, I can't say that going through the permitting process will go off without a hitch and there'll be no speed bumps along the way, but that is what we're shooting for. It's a really tight timeline. We understand the restrictions with the site, and that's our goal. Construction is always a little bit unpredictable when you're going into permitting, but
Yeah.
we're
So just to echo back, so it sounds like while there are still some things that are unpredictable and there's many factors that we just can't know for sure until they're happening, it's your hope that this is the final time it's being pushed back.
Yeah. I mean, we are moving forward with permitting, and just
that
trying
wasn't the case the other times.
No, we had never gotten as far as to go through the start of permitting.
Okay.
But that's where we are now.
And if that changes, can we know right away? Would you send us an email right away if it's going to get pushed back so that we can know? Because
Yeah, I mean, if we anticipate any delays in permitting, we will let you know right away. There are ways that we can kind of adjust our schedule to kind of get the work done inside the fence before the Memorial Day weekend, and we can make those adjustments and kind of speed up our schedule there. But if there are any adjustments, we'll let you know as soon as we can.
Sounds good. I'm gonna hang up really quick and join on my computer now that I'm home.
Okay.
okay. Yes, it's been really difficult with us putting lots of things on hold, not knowing what's going to happen. The area that's left open, like on the Kirkpatrick side, near those fruit trees, how big is that area?
Erica, you're muted.
Do you mean the edge of the meadow and the fruit trees?
Yes, the area where it's literally written children's planters. I don't want to know how big the planters is, just that area that the writing's on.
The grass area.
Yes. Because, you know, this is not to scale, so it helps me when you guys tell me how big things are.
Yeah. So, come on. So from the edge of the meadow that's just outside the children's area to the fence is almost 70 feet.
And the trees to the beds.
And the trees, I'm gonna go from the middle tree to the beds is about 58 feet.
Okay, thank you.
So this updated layout looks really good. Now that I can see it.
Okay. Michael just informed me that whole area that I just gave you, the two, kind of the rough two dimensions, is 20, would you say 2,300? 2,300 square feet.
I had a question for y'all just about logistics of the Zoom. I'm taking notes while also sharing my screen. Can you all see the, you can still see the image of the drawing?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
my notes are blocking it on my end a little.
No, we
so
can't see your notes.
Good deal, thanks. And so this is a zoom in version of the image. The zoomed out version is not as easy to see these details of the garden area, but is there any information on that, Megan, that you want to share about some of those like specs of the
Yeah, we can
units?
totally, we can send that over afterwards so you can see, you know, exactly the seating specs we're using for the meadow and the Lomo areas, all the notes that we're calling out for the restoration. I don't have that full drawing up here right now.
I do. If you want it, it's really hard to read at this
Yeah,
scale.
there's a lot of text, and I think the main things that we covered, Erica covered the Lomo seating, the meadow seating. So we're basically have two seating types for the entire project.
And so much as the parking lot on the Kirkpatrick sat temporarily, you guys said you would talk with the city to see what you guys can do for us to have parking while you guys are still on the D-Rot sat working. How is that going?
Yeah, I actually haven't had that conversation with the city, but I will definitely have that soon and get an answer back to you guys. I think that's about it for this drawing, unless you had any more comments. I wanted to go over to Claire's email from today about the edging that we were using. If
Yes, I
that's
don't have any more questions about the drawing.
okay. All right.
Great.
Yeah, Claire, we had some conversations last week, and I think Erica can maybe help us out about potential alternative materials for the edging for those smaller in-ground planters. Erica, did you want to talk about potential other materials or?
No, I mean, this was just what Megan and I very briefly went back and forth, just talking about right now. What's proposed is the wood borders around each garden bed, and the concern is that it would decay quite quickly. So I didn't know if there'd be something like a more like again a paver, which would be like a brick or a concrete border that can be put around them, and I had suggested polywood too, but that too is quite expensive, but it wouldn't rot.
Is polywood plastic?
It is.
No.
It is plastic. It's basically plastic that's made to look like wood, similar to when you see decking or outdoor furniture that's made out of it.
I'd I'd veer away from the the plastic option, but I would I mean, I don't see why some kind of paver couldn't work. I think that the advantage of having a continuous piece of material is that then you don't have cracks for weeds to grow in. So
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And if it's pinned down, it doesn't, there's less chance of it moving around.
also a good, even untreated lumber, like good untreated lumber can last a solid like 5 to 7 years. And especially something dense and low that's not really structural, but more about delineation can last beyond when it would be structurally sound and just.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't like pavers around the gardens, like concrete in there. It's hard when you're leaning up against it,
Mhm.
you're down on the ground and it scratches you. And I also don't like my plants heading up against it. I want them just to have the soil. Like, yeah, I don't like this type of pavers as ideal. Like the untreated wood that Claire is talking about.
Do you guys know by chance when those above ground planters were put in on MLK?
The
I'm just
ones,
trying.
the 4x4s that are taller.
Yeah. Mhm.
I believe those were installed probably in 2014.
Yeah, because they're starting to fall apart, and just trying to get an idea. So that would be like 8 years ago.
Which is pretty good. I mean, I work with a ton of community gardens, and it's so many people do lumber raised beds of some kind, and it's
Mhm.
At some point you got to replace them, and that's how it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, anything that's touching the ground like that when you have untreated wood is going to rot. It's just how long. So if timber is the way we're going to go here, I think we're going to have to, as far as getting, custom milled lumber, I don't think that's going to be an option for us unless your carpenter can get put on a contract with our primes, which would be a matter of him reaching out and saying, I can provide these services. We can't really sole source contractors like that. So I guess the options are see if he can get put on the prime contracts or specify a type of wood that's acceptable for both of us.
I could talk to him. He might have just advice about this sort of thing.
Mhm.
We could also, there's a possibility that having the bed sizes shift by 1 or 2 feet in either direction might make less cuts required, or make it easier to buy a bulk order of lumber from just like one of the lumber supply places. I can check in with him about that, but
yeah, I mean, even if he can specify an alternative material other than custom milled lumber, that would be a big help. And I live actually not far from the garden that you mentioned in your email, and we can go out and take photos and get a detail on our drawings showing exactly how it's pinned down, how the rebar is inserted, things like that. So we can definitely spec that out.
yeah, I think the other option I think that if we're talking about lumber delineation, not intended to raise the bed, but intended to keep it easy to maintain the shapes of the beds and the edges of the pads, we might even be able to do more like sort of a frame kit situation, but with very low lumber and with like a corner post sort of attachment. I don't know if you're familiar with how.
Yeah, those kits that you can buy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely different ways you could go about it. I think if the I think if you're going high quality install, longest lasting, then not necessarily like the exact same contractor and design as the one we used at Manchester, but something similar would probably be the way to go if we're going more sort of like easily replaceable, but a good and a little bit less long lasting, but a good delineation for now that doesn't require rebar install. There are definitely other options. You know, there's levels to everything. So, so we could look at 4x4s or 2x4s even, or and
Yeah. With those, sorry.
yeah.
Those, I think there are even like 3x2s that you could stack on top of each other. Oh, is that 3x2?
I don't know about that, but
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know about stacking, but I think anything below 4 inches is going to get lost in any path, vegetation, or you know, if the paths are going to be wood chips. I forget if that has already been specified, but I mean, Lomo paths might be less maintenance than wood chips in my opinion, but that all depends. Anyway, I think it's a little bit of a dance between actually reducing the lumber cost significantly by reducing the amount of material and trying not to get so low and small with the pieces that they then just disappear and don't actually do the job of delineating the space. But
well, at least with the kits that you just mentioned, usually when I've seen those, they're either steel corners. They're very modular where you can insert the wood. And then they even have side pieces to hold it. You know, that might work well for, you know, and then if they do rot or deteriorate, they could hopefully be easily replaced. If it's, you know, with dimensional lumber.
yeah, I think if we're talking like common lumber dimensions, then it will be more easily replaced.
What do you mean common lumber dimensions?
Like
would that mean like just shrink the size of the plots?
Well, that's one of the things. Like it could be that like 4 foot by 18 foot is like reduces the amount of cuts of lumber or something like that. I forget what the common lumber lengths are, but like I think they might come in 10-foot pieces, so it might be that might be a moot suggestion. But what I mean by common lumber dimensions is like basically like the time that I've done this lumber edging with the Manchester group, we did 4x6s, which is an unusual like lumber dimension, and if we did 4x4s or 2x4s or something that you can more easily like pick up at the lumber supply or order from a building supply place, then that makes those pieces more easily replaceable. Does that make sense, Michelle?
Yes. Yeah, I just don't want the plot size to shrink anymore because how we decided to do it, we actually do lose a little space of each of those. There was 20 by 10s.
Because you have the
We lost some
walkways
of
in
the space.
between.
So I don't want to continue to lose space, growing space.
Yeah. Do you all have a sense of budget for this?
I don't have a budget offhand. This is an unexpected cost. So, you know, there was no budget allocated for it. If it's a, you know, if it's a nominal budget, if it's $10,000, we can probably, you know, because whatever the material cost is, the labor is probably going to be, you know, if the wood cost is 5,000, you're probably going to have another 5,000 with rebar and labor. If it's in that ballpark, I can probably justify it and, you know, get that through. If we're talking $15,000, $20,000, there's probably going to be some heads turning.
Okay. That's good to know. The supplies and labor, I did like the quickest calculation earlier today. Supplies and labor for 788 linear feet of this edging at Manchester came out with delivery, supplies, labor, and delivery before install came out to about $3K. I installed them with 3 of my coworkers and 3 gardeners in like 4 or 5 hours total. And I probably spent less than $1,000 on rebar, and I got it cut at the building products place in Sharpsburg. My like roughest estimation of the pre-drilled, say we were to talk Ed into doing this project and working through the technicality to be contractable for it. My roughest estimation of that before rebar was like 8K. So I think it could hover around 10K, and it's the sort of thing that you could easily get. Like, I mean, depends on you all's, I don't know, contractual obligations, but sort of thing that you could supply the supplies for, and that we could install with a volunteer group. Like it's very simple labor with single jack sledgehammers and rebar. So, but you know, that's the rebar and lumber route versus the frame kits drilled into corner post route. You know, there's.
Yeah, I mean, that's an option that we could provide the materials. I think we're going to be over double that cost because we have 48. We have 4 by 20 beds, right? And we have 36 of them.
I calculated about 2,600 linear feet, and I divided the cost of the original lumber, which was $2,500, by 788, and then I multiplied that, and then I multiplied 2,600 by whatever I got there, which was, I don't know, I think it was like $3.20 per linear foot of that lumber. So I could be recalling some of those numbers incorrectly off the top of my head, but the 8K number I'm not recalling incorrectly. So again, rough estimation, but I did use what I believe to be
Okay. Okay, we can look into that. Let me run that by the folks here just to see if we can, as part of this construction contract, provide the materials. And then, you know, have a volunteer event for the assembly. Let me see if that's something we can do.
What do you think about this, Nichelle? What do you think about the different, like, the different options here?
I don't know what either one of these options look like. You know, so it'd be helpful if I can visually see what they look like. I mean, I know the Manchester Park, perhaps Claire, when you go better again, you can take pictures of it, or maybe
Yeah,
one day we can go over there and check it
totally.
out and kind of look at these different options.
I'm gonna run over tomorrow if that helps. I can get you photos, you know, tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Just to get it, you know, so you guys don't have to run over there.
Well, Claire probably will be going over there anyway.
Okay.
I'll be there on Thursday. I have
All
some,
right.
but yeah, yeah. I mean, I encourage you to go by. I guess I'm sort of. Yeah, I'm seeing pros and cons to both approaches, to like a smaller lumber, more replaceable, less long lasting, but easy install, easier replace, and also seeing benefits to the heavy duty custom, longer lasting rebar install. Maybe we could, maybe I could check in with Ed, see if I can come up with a good idea of how the sort of lower key thing might work, which yeah, see if I could have an idea of that. And maybe you could yeah, just finalize I don't know, your available budget window for this part of the project, and knowing that there's a few specific ways it could go, and that we're looking into that, and then maybe we could finalize the plan for that next month. Does that sound okay?
Yeah,
that works.
Okay.
all right then.
Were there other material specific conversations you wanted to have about soil remediation, cover crop?
Yeah, soil remediation might be one that we want to touch on. I think that we have specified on our drawings. Erica, do you know what we have noted on there currently?
Can you expand on what you're asking?
I'm sorry, for the planter beds, what do we have currently specified in there as far as soil?
Let's see.
I think we have
It's
noted
just-
some.
It's just right now it's called a compost topsoil mix.
Megan, when you say planter beds, are you talking about the 4x4s, or are you talking about the 4x4s and the 4x20s?
Well, I guess we would have to talk about both. I mean,
Yeah,
are they?
Yes, that's exactly right. Both of them, all what we have just on the plans. I don't know if we have anything, I didn't do the specs, but we just call it a top compost / topsoil mix.
Yeah, so I recommended some specs in a document from last year that could have been pulled from that. And we do get a 60% topsoil, 40% compost mix from AgriCycle. They offer a couple of different mixes.
Okay.
And yeah, highly suggest using AgriCycle. Will there be heavy machinery driving over the areas where the planters will and heavy foot traffic.
There might be. It's such a small site within the fence that when they're excavating the hole for the tanks, they'll likely be close to where the beds are going to be, like along that southern edge of the pit. So that, yeah, they will be driving over that.
Okay, so
They won't be disturbed.
so I think that I recommended this in the spec sheet from a while ago. I can go dig that up, but that area will need tilled before the planters are before the I would just recommend renting a BCS tiller or similarly heavy duty walk behind tiller, or yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, I guess it's like not really a situation to use like tractor level stuff, but yeah, I would recommend renting a BCS or other similarly heavy duty walk behind tiller to till out the entire area designated to be vegetable growing space after work is done. And somebody who knows how to do that, like who has agricultural expertise and can tell when it's like an appropriate time to then start applying compost in the soil. And I think that I think that for the in-ground beds, tilling, and then I would say adding 3 to 4 inches of the compost topsoil mix, and then adding possibly another whole like inch or 2 of just compost, which you can also get from AgriCycle, and then heavily mulching with leaf mulch or straw mulch, the entire area. Or I mean, you could also cover crop it, but we're not really sure what, when folks will be coming in. This, this next growing season is going to be really uncertain for the group. So yeah, those are my recommendations. I can consult with my coworkers and see if they have additional stuff to say. My coworker who farms the Braddock community, the Braddock farm site that used to be super compacted, might have a couple of other things to say. But Michelle, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was wondering, is there anything we could do about weed suppression? Because I understand why it's going to need till because of the heavy machinery compressing it. I understand that, but when you till, you bring up weed seeds that are dug deep. And so I'm concerned that, when we come back into the garden, we're going to be like infested with weeds from the new seeds being revealed.
Yeah, that I totally hear that. I think if there's like 5+ inches of new soil on top of what's been tilled, then it's really unlikely that seeds that are kicked up from the tilling will make it up to the sun. But I also think if all the beds are then heavily mulched with organic matter, like either really well with straw or really well with leaf mulch, or even paper mulch, like if you get that, like the Arbico Organics sells a good roll out paper mulch, and that suppresses weeds pretty darn well.
Think about that stuff that we have for the garden.
Yeah, like if
it doesn't really let water through.
Well, yeah, but if they're just if that's just to hold the beds and keep them weed free until somebody's growing in them, then once someone's growing in it again during or after this uncertain season, then like It's like a bit of a heavier duty barrier than like straw, but it's also not gonna hold little ponds and create mosquito nests like tarp, you know what I mean? So I feel like it could be good for like having the beds that are at rest for however long they're gonna be.
So would the, not to change the subject, but would the above ground planters have the same soil mix with the topsoil and compost?
Yes, but they should be because they're in because they're basically containers.
Mhm.
They should be like the top foot of soil that's added into those beds
Mhm.
should be mixed with a specific mixture of perlite, a sustainable peat moss substitute, and which we just get pit moss. I don't know if you know the company Pit Moss. And clay sand to mix up the structure of the soil so that it doesn't become so immediately compact as our regional clay soil would love to do when it's in a container.
Okay. Okay.
We get our perlite wholesale from Knoltz, and we get pit moss from Pit Moss, and we just pick up clay sand at the Home Depot, but you can get it all over. And I have the I can share specifics for the mixing process of that at another time.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if you have like a percentage, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. I'll dig that up.
Okay, that's all very good. Good info for us.
For the meadow install,
Mhm.
I'm just curious about what the specs you all are working with there are, and are you working with under the folks you're able to contract? Are you working with landscapers who are experienced in that, or are you just gonna kind of fill out a seed mix, or what are your
No, so I think Rachel and Erica were working out a spec for the development of those meadows. I don't know if you guys can talk more about.
For the development of the meadow, we had for those areas, let me see if I can find it. May not. Okay. So the area of the meadow areas were to be tarped, and like, so the topsoil would be placed. Then those areas would be tarped for about 2 months after the topsoil placement. And then they'll remove the tarps and immediately seed the meadow. And then you leave it, and it should not be mowed or trimmed at all until it's at least 8 inches growth. The mix that we specified is from Ernst. It's called the ERN MX 179. It's a butterfly and hummingbird garden mix is what they call it. It can get to the height of 6.5 feet.
Wow.
And it includes it includes a lot, but it has, I can't even.
Yeah, it's a long list. I
It's a
saw.
long list. I mean, the highest percentage is this thing called Little Blue Stem, which is that's a Pennsylvania seed.
I love Little Blue Stem.
Oh, good.
I'm pulling out my Ernst catalog.
There you go. it has, you know, you can see in your Ernst catalog what it has, but yeah, it has the little blue stem, the Virginia wild rye, purple cornflower,
Nice.
etc. Quite a long list, but yeah, that's currently what we have specified, unless there's a different meadow mix that you would like to see. I mean, just having worked with Ernst in the past, they're very easy to work with. And I've found their seeds to be excellent.
Cool. Yeah. Michelle, I bet we'd love to geek out together about this catalog sometime soon, where I could bring it to.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you could bring it the next time we meet at the garden.
Because there might be like specific types of native plants that you'd be pumped to see. But yeah, one of these mixes will definitely be fun. Oh, notable that the back part of the, if Joe were here, he would want to make sure we mention this. The back part of where the meadow is going to be is very marshy. There's cattails there right now. So it might benefit from, like, there's just there's different soil types through that, even through that small zone. Like there's going to be a drier type and a wetter type. So might benefit from a little bit of wetland mix added in there, or maybe not quite wetland, but
Yeah, one thing I can say is that part of this project, we're clearing off the fence line in the back, all those trees that have fallen, and we're clearing out that channel. So it's possible that it will drain a little bit better once we're done here, and there might not be that wetland area.
yeah, you would know
so-
how to eyeball that better than me. Yeah, I can see that.
Don't say that too loud, but yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have
Destroying
to
the
see.
wetland.
Yeah, but yeah, she's correct. Because where the meadow areas on top of the tanks, obviously that's all regraded. Now in theory, the park or the inside the fence area drains towards the back. When we say back, towards that channel that's on the edge of the on the other side of the fence, and then of course away from it towards the gardens, and that would be the case once the tanks are installed. So there likely won't be a marshy area. It might become marshy or be marshy near between the tanks and the channel. Not too far from the trees, but honestly, on top of where the tanks are where the meadow's going, there, and the fact that there's drainage tanks underneath them, water won't hold in that area anyway. It'll just go right into the tanks.
Okay.
So.
Was there something else that you guys wanted to talk about when Claire asked about the soil remediation? There was something else that I forgot you guys said.
Can't think
To
of
go over soil remediation is something else.
soils. We talked about ground cover. We talked about the planter materials. That's all I had.
Okay.
Unless there's something I mentioned. No, I'm forgetting.
To me, this is good progress for today on some of the
Yeah.
steps.
Was it the trees? Like,
Trees.
Sorry,
we
say
talked
that
about the trees that we're planting?
Yeah, we had
No.
specified the magnolia and the red buds. I don't know I think we talked about that in our last meeting. We kind of thought about grouping. No, it wasn't can you zoom out, Aline? I don't think it was the magnolia. It was the whatever one's on to the right where we have it written. Maybe it was
It's
the
red.
magnolia.
Yeah, it says redbud and magnolia, so
I thought
think
that
it
we had
was-
talked about a different tree, but Yeah, so we were planning on just planting them in 2 different groupings with the red buds and the magnolias. They were smaller trees. They won't provide a ton of shade over your gardens, but they are, accepted street trees by the city. So we're able to plant them as replacement trees.
So what happens? Did you guys like try to take care of them so they don't die?
Yeah, we'll maintain them for a year after we install them. They have a year warranty, and our contractor will maintain them for a year. After that, they'll be the city's responsibility if they die. So.
All right, I don't have anything else.
Okay. All right, we'll get these comments incorporated. We'll check out the Manchester Gardens and see what they look like and try to, provide some details for you. Or the alternative, which is to provide materials and have a volunteer installation.
Okay.
So, okay. All right. Do you want to meet up again in next month?
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty. Thank you all so much, especially we went a little over time, but I think it was worth it. So,
sorry, is your next month meeting, do you want to schedule that, or do you want to say,
Can you guys come to our next meeting, like the second half of it? It will be October 5th. If you guys come around like 6:30.
Okay, yeah, we could do that.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
I think
everybody.
so.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
day.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
bye.